Welcome back to Weekend Express. If you're just joining us, first of all, happy Mother's Day. And this specific edition of Weekend Express, it's just all about women. First of all, you met Jeff, who's a fantastic spoken word artist, and he shared one of his pieces on mothers. And now you get to meet an amazing woman who has, I think, one of the most inspiring stories I have had in a while. And I hope that wherever you are should also be inspiring. And then later again, you get to meet another inspiring woman. So literally, this specific edition of Weekend Express is for women. So if you're just joining us, you are just in time for this conversation. Before we can jump into it and I can introduce you to the guests, allow me to share with you a few statistics in regards to health complications, more specifically pregnancy complications, to bring your attention to it so you can see why this is actually a very important conversation we need to be having as a nation, even as we're marking Mother's Day, all right? So get this, 42.4% is the number that most women die while having their first or their second-born child. 8.8% of women who die are below the ages of 20. I'll share with you yet another statistic. 6 out of 10 deaths occur postpartum, that's after birth, and over 7 out of 10 deaths occur out of office hours between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. on weekdays and weekends and public holidays. Let me also bring your attention to yet another one. 1 out of every 5 women die due to non-obstetric complications, mainly HIV. And only 5 in 10 of women who died had ANC. Only 1 in 5 who attended the ANC had at least 4 ANC visits. That is their antenatal care. So this just paints for you an image of where we stand as a nation in regards to women and complications when it comes to giving birth. Now, having said that, allow me to introduce my guests this morning who will be able to take us through the next part of the show. Closer to me is Dr. Wanyueke Kishuhi, who is a fertility expert. And next to her is the amazing lady that I mentioned earlier to you, Angie Koma, who is now a mother. I say now a mother because that has not always been our story. Lady and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I mean, Angie, take us through, right now you're a mother. Yeah. To a boy or a girl?
A boy.
A boy.
Yeah.
How old?
3 years going 4.
3 years going 4.
Yes.
But that has not always been the case.
No.
Talk to me. Tell me about it.
So when I started my trying to conceive journey, I call it TTC, it was back in late 2012. So it took me some time to get pregnant. So you wait a few days, weeks, months, and I finally got pregnant, which was exciting, very exciting for me, actually. Like, I wanted to shop the first time I just saw the 2 lines. But when I went to see my doctor, he had advised that we need to go for a scan just to get to know if the baby is okay, so that now we can start talking about how to take care of the baby when still in the tummy. So I went for the first scan, and we couldn't see the baby. And the doctor told me that maybe it's too early, maybe we're not sure about the date, so just give it like 2 weeks, and then you can come back for another scan. So I was like, okay, I can wait. So after 2 weeks, just before the second appointment, I started getting sick. I would feel like I want to vomit. I'm nauseated. I had pain, constant pain, like a stitch-like pain, and I started bleeding. So it was a cause for alarm. And just then I called the doctor, and he asked me to just go and let's have a check, let's find out what's happening. And I was able to be given some medicine to take care of that. But when we did the scan, they were still not able to see the baby. And it took some time, but once they were able to trace the baby had implanted in the fallopian tube, so it ended up being an ectopic pregnancy. So I had done a bit of research when I was trying to get pregnant, so I had an idea that an ectopic pregnancy is a pregnancy that is not in the uterus, but in the fallopian tube.
Quite dangerous.
Quite dangerous. It's life-threatening. It's not a good experience for any mother who's expecting a baby. So I was able to see the heartbeat. I was excited. You know, before they gave me the information, I was quite excited to see the heartbeat. And then, lo and behold, the news came that now it was an ectopic. And I didn't really foresee what was going to happen next. I did know that having to remove this pregnancy, you have to go through surgery, or that did not play in my mind. So when I was being told that for you to start bleeding, it might be that the fallopian tube is about to rupture, so you have to be rushed into surgery as soon as now. That is a news that did not go well with me or my husband. So we actually had to be rushed into fast emergency room for surgery. And when they were taking me through what it entails, like they have to cut my fallopian tube, that didn't go well with me. I was like, I still need my tubes. I still need babies. I'm not ready for this. And it took some time for them to calm me down. But yeah, I went through with the surgery. And thank God they said they saved my tube, because it was not in the middle of the tube. It was almost at the ovary. So they saved my tube, and I was excited, but I didn't know. I was still not sure what they did. You know, that mentality that you have, that once they cut you open, you have no idea what happens.
That's true.
Yeah, so that was what was going through my mind.
And this is in 2012?
2012 going to 2013, because I got pregnant there around December.
Right.
About.
Before you can now bring the sunlight and the sunshine, let me just bring in Dr. Wanyoike. Dr. Wanyoike, how often do you hear such stories?
It's quite often that you hear about ectopic pregnancies, because it's one of the complications of pregnancy when you have abnormal implantation. The pregnancy normally implants in the womb, in the endometrium, but this is the case actually to implant itself in the fallopian tube, and that can be quite dangerous.
What she was saying?
Yeah. It can be, actually it's life-threatening, and people actually die from ruptured ectopic pregnancy.
Life-threatening to also the mother's life?
Yes, to the mother's life.
Oh.
Definitely the baby cannot survive. Yeah, and surgery is paramount in this case.
What are the symptoms?
The symptoms is symptoms of pregnancy. You're going to miss, one is going to miss the periods. Most of the times is about 6 to 8 weeks. Then of course you may have nausea, just the normal symptoms of pregnancy. Then there may be some slight bleeding and acute pelvic pain, very severe pelvic pain. Yeah. Those are the early signs, and the pain is persistent, excruciating. Yeah, and it gets worse, then there'll be symptoms actually of severe blood loss, where somebody will start getting dizziness and fainting spells.
You can relate to this, Angie, because you said that bleeding happened, and that's when you knew something was wrong.
Yeah, you get internal bleeding. Okay, sometimes you might get just a little, but inside your tummy, when the rupturing is happening, because it's a rupture, when it just blows, there'll be internal bleeding. So the doctor might know what they're talking about, but for me at that time, I didn't know. But everything the doctor is saying is true. You actually first get all the pregnancy. In fact, when I started getting dizzy, nauseated, feeling like fainting, I thought it was the morning sickness I've started. But when there was that pain, when I started getting now the pain that was not going away, then that was a bit uncomfortable, and it was not going away, so it was very uncomfortable for me. Yeah.
Dr. Ari, is this hereditary?
No. This comes as a result of damage to the fallopian tubes. It's rare that it is actually something occurs. Sometimes the tubes can get damaged. Sometimes you can have what you call endometriosis, the blood going backwards and damaging the tubes, or there could be some infection which has damaged the tube. As a result, actually, the pregnancy gets trapped in the fallopian tube, and then you end up with an ectopic pregnancy.
Angie, it's not like a woman or a girl anticipates to have problems when they're having a child, let alone their very first child. I'm sure this must have taken a toll on you physically, spiritually, and emotionally.
Yes, it did. And if it were not for the support I got from my husband, my family and friends, it was a difficult journey. First of all, you have to deal with the excitement of, the excitement dying out, like you're not pregnant anymore. People asking questions, what happened? And you don't have the information. I'm not a doctor. I didn't research before. I was just expecting a baby. So when people ask you questions and you cannot explain why it happened the way it happened, then it becomes a bit emotionally draining. And then the physical draining comes, the aftermath after surgery. Your body is tired. You're dealing with wounds, and and then you're also dealing with the mental torture of, will I ever get pregnant again? Will I be able to hold a baby again? Is that dream dead? You know, yeah.
Even after that, did you ever think that you would be seated here today with a 3-year-old going to 4-year-old? During that time, during that period of 2012, 2013, if someone ever told you, Angie, you will still have a baby?
To me, it seems like a joke. Like, I never thought I would be here. Because even when you Google, some people, that was their first and last chance. So you feel like giving up on yourself, on the marriage. You feel like, you know, like a woman, your pride comes when you have kids you can take care of. And everyone used to feel like I have the motherly instinct, so what will happen? Of course, there are other alternatives, but you also want your own baby.
Right.
So for me, it seemed quite difficult at that time to just understand that I'll be able to conceive again. But a few months later, funny enough, when the doctor gave me the go-ahead, I got pregnant. And I was so excited. Like, I used to pray and just ask God, like, please just do it for me. You know, just answer my prayers. So I was able to get pregnant barely 3 months after that. But again, 3 months later, I miscarried that baby. So that was a normal miscarriage, and that really, really got me down.
And this was your second time trying?
Yes.
Wow. Your husband, you say that your husband and your friends and your family were there for you. I'm sure this also took a toll on your husband. You know, physically it takes a toll on us women, emotionally as well, and spiritually. But we also forget that the man has also lost a child. Tell me, and even for women, why it's so important that at that time in a marriage is when you need to even be more intact, and not that's when you need to let go.
Okay, for us, because I'm such a prayerful person, I used to pray, and because we had a very good foundation with my husband in terms of communication and everything. We used to talk about it. You know, when you don't talk about it, because people see it as a taboo.
Right.
So if you don't talk about it, it will kill you inside. But we used to talk about it, deal with the situation as it comes. When we don't feel like talking to, and it's even very difficult for me to just come out here and talk about it, because now you feel like your business is out there. But I realize that people go through this silently. And though I went through this and my story is a happy ending, I feel like I should stand out and encourage other people. And I talk to people, even at work, at home. When I reach out to someone who's really struggling, I just try and encourage them.
And that silence eats you up. And that's what we tend to do as mothers or wives and even husbands.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's taboo and you don't want someone to look down upon you, or your boys or your girls to look down upon you.
Yeah,
you don't talk about it, yet that's what you're supposed to do. Through talking comes healing.
Yeah, comes healing. So you have to talk about it with your friends, just the way. You don't need to know everything. Even when I was hopeful for getting pregnant, at least the second experience, when I got pregnant, it was in the uterus, it was growing, it was a beautiful experience, and I felt, even after losing my first pregnancy, God still got me there. So that was encouraging. So for me, the second time, it did not take a toll on me like the first time. It was a bit encouraging. So I felt if I got pregnant again, I can still try and get pregnant, maybe.
Dr. Wanyuke, what are the other examples of pregnancy complications out there that women have had to tackle?
There are early pregnancy complications, and the most critical actually is ectopic pregnancy, ruptured ectopic pregnancy. It's very critical, especially in our setup, because if appropriate surgical intervention is not taken, mothers do die as a result of ruptured ectopic pregnancy. And that's why we always insist, even before we come to that, is very critically important. Once pregnancy occurs, one has to be seen by a doctor to ascertain that this pregnancy is good. And it doesn't have the implantation is in the right place. The other complication in early pregnancy will be actually miscarriage, what we call abortions. And actually in the first trimester, that is in the first 3 months, you find that almost a third of the pregnancies will be lost.
A third?
A third. But that, there isn't much we can do about it, because what happens is when the sperm and the egg meet and they start forming, sometimes you get abnormalities. So the early pregnancies are lost because of those abnormalities. So there's nothing one can do in those first 3 months. But others are lost because of hormonal imbalance, what you call copper luteum deficiency. Yeah, so that is a complication in the first trimester mainly. Of course, there are others like a severe morning sickness. Sometimes they can incapacitate the mother. And if you have very poor employers, again, they can bring a lot of problems. So it's critically important that once the pregnancy occurs, one has to be seen by the doctors just to review and see that the pregnancy is getting well. Give some medications like folic acid, iron supplements, which are going to support the pregnancy. And of course, one is advised on what to take, especially nutritionally. If the pregnancy is lost, it's very important that counseling is done because it's a very traumatic experience to the mother, to the couple. And that's why we fail in our society, because we don't have any counseling, especially in the public hospitals. The mother loses baby, even in the private sector. The uterus is cleaned, or it's an ectopic pregnancy, and they just told to go home. And they actually get very, very traumatized.
Angie, did you get counseling?
Oh, well, I did not go for professional counseling, but like I've said, my support system was quite strong.
Right.
My family and friends really stood out for me. We used to talk, they used to check on me, they used to call me, and those are the little things that count. So for me, that worked well for me.
Dr. Wanyuke, are there also complications that we need to know after pregnancy? Because you hear stories of where a mother has successfully given birth, but then a week or two later, she ends up passing away.
Okay, before I come to that, first I've talked about the first trimester, what you may occur. There's what will occur in the second and the third trimester.
Okay.
There are 4 critical diseases which can affect the mother. One is preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is high blood pressure in pregnancy. We do not know what causes the blood pressure to go up, but actually out of 100, 8 women will end up with preeclampsia. And is one of the key causes of death and complications of pregnancy. But if it is picked up early, then you're able to control it, because so a doctor can be able to see, even the midwife will be able to see the blood pressure is going up, and they're going to give intervention. If the blood pressure is not controlled, then you can end up with eclampsia, what we call severe fitting. Actually, someone fits like someone with convulsions, like someone who has epilepsy. And that actually will interfere with the mother because the blood pressure is high, and actually end up with a pregnancy loss. And sometimes you can get the placenta even getting detached. So that's one of them, high blood pressure. Okay. The other one is actually bleeding during pregnancy, what you call antepartum hemorrhage. Is sometimes it will occur, the placenta is not well attached to the womb, what you call placenta previa, or the placenta may come up, or sometimes in no specific cause. And again, is a very, very big killer. The other one which we have complications is actually infections in the setup. Especially, we have to emphasize to the young ladies that those who try to procure abortion, they're more likely to get infection, which actually can kill. Sepsis is a major killer in our setup. And there, of course, there's also anemia, very little blood in these mothers, and that's why insisting they go to the clinic so that they can be counseled. So those ones, if they're picked, if intervention is there, they can be avoided. Yeah. But antepartum hemorrhage, again, can be very sudden, that some mother is just very well, she has no complication, and she starts bleeding. And that can be actually life-threatening most of the time.
And all these are before the pregnancy? Before
actually delivery. They can occur before delivery. But now, after delivery, the biggest killer is what we call postpartum hemorrhage. Is because when the baby is delivered, the placenta will come out. In normal circumstances, the womb is going to contract to stop the bleeding. But it doesn't always do that. So when one goes to the hospital, is given medication to cause the womb contract. A drug what we call egometrin or syntocinon to cause the womb to contract. And if the bleeding is severe, then medical intervention is given further to stop the bleeding completely. So the biggest killer we have in our setup is postpartum hemorrhage.
What can be done?
Delivery in a health center, in a hospital. As a routine, all the mothers when deliver, whether they're in the public, whether in the private, they're given injection to stop the bleeding. So if one delivers at home and this is not done, then the risk of getting postpartum hemorrhage is very high. And that's why we're encouraging all the mothers to have hospital or hospital-based deliveries. And this initiative by the government to have actually free maternal service is very critically important, because mothers are lost after the delivery because of bleeding.
Angie, back to your story. So the first pregnancy happens, the second pregnancy happens. You and your husband are saying, no, we are going to continue. Yeah. We're going to pursue this. Yeah. Now comes the third try.
Yes.
And that's where you found your luck and your success.
Yeah, but the way you find that you're pregnant, it becomes difficult because it's not like the normal
excitement.
Yeah, excitement. You're like, I still have a journey just before I'm safe. So you don't know what to expect. So what happened is, when I got pregnant, it was like, I'm pregnant. And then you wait a few times, then you have to go for the scan, which is a scary process now.
Yeah.
You go for the scan, and it was okay. And when my tummy started showing this time, is when my husband now was like, yeah, actually, we're going to have a baby. And it was a very smooth pregnancy, but they termed it as high-risk pregnancy. So I was really being handled with care. And I was even able to deliver normally, and I was able to give birth to a bouncing baby boy. That's Mark Darrell Adundo. I love that boy. Mm-hmm. He's so bubbly, he's so smart, he's brought so much joy to my life.
When you first held him, take me back. What was that experience for you like? When you figured out, oh my goodness, it's been 9 months. I am here at the end of the journey. My baby and I are healthy. I have a baby. After all you've gone through, at that time when you held him in your arms,
it looked like it wasn't real. And my baby was so cute. And he had 2 dimples. I didn't even expect that. He was so cute. I held him. I didn't believe, actually. And in fact, when they were cleaning me up and taking care of me, my mind wasn't there. As in, I didn't even feel the pain after that when I saw my baby. All that just went away. We were so excited, and I just thank God. I thank God that I really have my son too.
So far, what has become your favorite part of motherhood?
My favorite part is actually just having a conversation with my son, because now we can actually have a conversation. He'll tell me what he wants. He'll run and jump at me when I'm coming home. He's just an amazing boy.
And what lesson have you learned through this entire process? Or, like you said, you're a prayerful woman, so through this time when God was testing you and your husband, what is that one key lesson that you'd actually share with women today that you learned during that time?
Patience.
Wow.
Patience. It's not as easy as people think. I just wanted things to happen like A, B, and C. Even the 9 months seemed like forever. The day I was going to give birth, we were arguing with the nurses because I was like, I need this boy. You know, my problem wasn't if they're going to come like normal or cesarean. I just need my son, you know. And they kept me waiting for 16 hours. I labored, and I was like, they had to keep checking the heartbeat and keep telling me the heartbeat is strong. We're going to have this baby. Because I wasn't taking anything like I'm living here without a baby. So for me, I just tell women out there who are really struggling with any complications regarding getting babies, just believe, have faith, pray, and just be patient. Be patient. If someone told me then, now that I'll be a mother, for me, it wasn't making sense at all.
Do you have plans to have baby number? I want to say 4 and 5 because you still recognize the first 2.
Yeah.
Do you still have plans? Is that in the works, or maybe this current baby is enough?
No. It's not enough, and the journey continues. Yeah. I've had other experiences. I had a recurring ectopic after that, 2 of them, but we're still hopeful. So sooner or later, maybe I'll come back and share about that experience.
Angie, what's keeping you going? Because you had that, then you had your child, then you're having the process again. What's keeping you going?
What keeps me going is my story is amazing. God just amazes me. I don't know what happens, but He always gives me the courage. I'm not scared. Whatever worse that was to happen had already happened. So for me, I believe the experiences I go through are not basically for me, but are for someone out there. The testimonies that I have about my pregnancy experience strengthens people more than even they do me. Because when I tell people my story, they don't believe how strong I am. I don't see it going through it, but I just do it because I don't know I can.
That is fantastic. Dr. Wanyoike, talk to me about, are there ways that we can go through around pregnancy complications? And I say that, for example, for women who want to have children, and they really want to have children, but they can't carry their own children. Is surrogacy an option here in Kenya? Is it legal? Or can people start practicing it? Because you find that a woman or a couple want to have children, but they can't.
I think, one, we have to talk about mothers who are able to conceive naturally, and we're going to talk about safe motherhood. That's a concept which has been forwarded. This is where actually the mothers have to attend antenatal clinic immediately. they conceive to be evaluated. The high-risk groups are the young people who are at teenage. We do have teenage pregnancies, very high risk, or early in the 20s, and the elderly mothers, those that are very, very high risk. So they need to attend the clinic immediately. Those who have diseases like hypertension, who have diseases like diabetes mellitus, at very high risk, or those people who have had difficulty in conception. So what you propose, safe motherhood, is just attending the clinic where one is evaluated to see whether they're at a high risk. If it's not high risk, actually they can be seen even after 2 months. If it's high risk, then they have to be seen every month. So we categorize patients into high risk and non-high risk, and we pay more attention to high risk. Somebody who has had previous cesarean section is a high risk. Somebody who has had preeclampsia, that's high blood pressure in the previous pregnancy, is a high risk, diabetes mellitus, or has had difficult delivery or pregnancy losses, what you call bad obstetric history. Okay. So as far as the issue of surrogacy is concerned, that comes in the realm of infertility. Is there some mothers who are not able to carry pregnancies on their own? Right. Either the mother was born with a defective uterus, the womb is defective, but the ovaries are perfectly normal, so she cannot be able to carry the pregnancy. That's where the surrogacy comes in. Surrogacy is legal in this country, although the laws have not been formulated. Or we can have somebody who has a disease of the uterus. Either they had very severe uterine fibroids, could have had cancer of the womb, the uterus, and it is removed that the ovaries are there. So those are the indications of surrogacy. Or you can have mothers who have very recurrent pregnancy losses. This is a mother who had several pregnancy losses due to very severe factors. It could be that the uterus is damaged, or they have very severe preeclampsia, then they may require a surrogacy.
As a fertility expert, what would be your closing remarks to Kenyans, more so mothers?
Interesting, my closing remarks will say is fertility is a serious problem. It will affect almost 20 to 30%. Most likely for every 10 women you see working, couples, we don't talk of women, we talk of couples, about 20% in this country have a problem in conception, and they're suffering silently. 2, infertility is a couple problem. It can affect both the man and the woman, and sometimes it's almost 50% because in this country, we tend to think infertility is a female problem. No, it's a couple problems, and the approach has to be couple. And we have serious problems because when when clients come, it's only the woman who will come, the man will not come. But men also do have problems. The fact that somebody is able to have normal sexual relation for a man does not mean actually they're fertile. There could be sperm abnormalities. Right. The other critically important I have to say before I finish is in the female, we are seeing people trying to get children when they're much older. In the female, a woman is born with a certain number of eggs, and they get diminished every cycle. And by the time you reach 35, fertility drops dramatically. And by the age of 41, most people will not be able to conceive. 45, most people will not conceive. So people have to get their children early, especially the first child. It's not finite. Fertility in women is not infinite. It's finite. It's confined. It gets finished. And that's the problem we're having, especially in the urban center. People coming at 40, they want to have children. And they don't realize actually the chances are very, very low. Because the natural cycle of the woman is the eggs get finished, and on average, by the age of 48, menopause comes. But fertility ends much earlier before the fertility. So people have to be encouraged to get at least their first child before the age of 35.
Okay. Angie, for women who are watching and others who are going through the process and probably haven't had a happy ending, what would you tell them?
I'll tell them that there are other options. That's what my doctor and I discussed. There are other options, so don't feel discouraged. You can still adopt. You can still do IVF. Maybe the doctor can expound on that. But if you're able to get a baby in the future, just be patient. Yeah, I'll just tell them, be patient and talk about it. Don't die on your own because it leads to depression at times. You feel like giving up, but don't give up, and God really do answer prayers. Yeah.
But now, before we close, you've actually said something that now Daktari has to answer.
Okay.
IVF. And that will be the closing statement.
Okay.
Because she's mentioned it, and there are other women who would have taken note of that right now.
Yes.
So IVF, tell me a little bit about that and how it can be an option for women outside there.
Okay.
IVF stands for in vitro fertilization. What is a test tube baby? Is a test tube baby. Because why we call it a test tube baby is we are going to retrieve the sperm from the man, and we are going to get the eggs from the woman and put them up in the lab in the so-called, in quote, test tube. And then we'll put them in incubator. The pregnancy will start growing what you call embryo. Then you're going to transfer that in the woman.
Is this successful?
Yeah, yeah, we have about 6 centers now. It's good people to know there are about 6 centers here. There's also one center in Eldoret. There's a center in Mombasa. And it's quite successful. But overall, IVF, the success rate is usually just about 30 to 40%. It's not very high. People have to understand that. So for those who have damaged fallopian tubes, then this is an indication, or they have infertility which cannot be treated with medication or cannot be treated with surgery, then IVF, in vitro fertilization, is the ideal. The biggest challenge we have in vitro fertilization is the cost, because it will cost about 400, 500,000.
Oh, wow.
We don't have a public IVF. I work with the university at Kenyatta National Hospital, and my biggest urge is the Ministry of Health. We need collaboration with Kenyatta National Hospital to start a public IVF center, which can cost less and an average Mwananchi can afford it.
Right. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Angie, thank you so much for coming today morning and bravely sharing your story with us. I'm sure there's a woman outside there who has said, if Angie can do it, I will also continue doing it. And happy Mother's Day to you. Dr. Gishui, thank you so much again for your time. A fertility expert helping us understand that. But that was fantastic. And we should actually now talk about fertility in itself, because I feel like that is so broad.
It's a huge topic. As I've said, for every 10 people you see, 10 couples you see, about 20% will have a problem.
So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we have to talk about it.
All right.
And we have to create more awareness, because actually people think you can delay fertility. You have to get children a bit early if you want to. You have to balance between your career and getting children.
So promise that you're going to come back.
Yeah, I'm going to come back, yeah.
All right, thank you. Awesome. All right, so that was a fantastic panel. Happy Mother's Day to everyone who is watching. This show is about to close off, but we still have a lot more for you in the next 30 minutes. Right now, remember Jeff from our very first hour? He wants to give you